Hey, it's Sunday night. It's time for the Bible Forum. I'm Warren Sprouse. I want to take you over to the Middle East, over to Israel. The Jewish news service is reporting that a high-placed official in Iran said on television recently that the liberation of Jerusalem is now the most important thing. Iranians are ancient Persians. Today they are not Christian. They are Islamic. There are a number of factions within Islam. The three dominant groups seem to be the Sunni. Sunnis seem to be more moderate. Over against the Shiite, which are the more aggressive. And mixed in there is a sizable group of Wahhabis, and they are the more liberal. Iran represents the Shiites. Not the only place you'll find them, but they are representing them, the more aggressive types. Iraq represented the more moderate Sunnis. That's why Iran wanted to take them over. And Saudi Arabia represents the more liberal Wahhabis, although there's a goodly number of Sunnis and Shiites there as well. And there are several more subsets, but these are the major players today. For example, Egypt was originally Shiite, although early Muslim leadership recognized Egyptian origin as flowing from the biblical Hagar, maidservant to Abraham's wife Sarah, as a result of their sojourn in Egypt during the famine. These early conquerors tolerated the Christian influence, the Coptics in Egypt, because of her, because of Sarah, and because of Hagar. With the arrival of Saladin, Sunni Islam was strengthened. Sunni Islam was established as the state religion of Egypt in 1171 A.D. Isaac's sons, Ishmael and Isaac, populated the land, with Ishmael being the son who rejected his father's God, Jehovah. These descendants of Ishmael also rejected Islam. By 1990, there were no Ismailis in Egypt. As the nation of Israel took root in 1948, an entirely manufactured Palestinian problem was being created by Arabs. Today, that history is lost on our media and on many government leaders as well as their administrators. When the United Nations voted to officially recognize Israel as a nation of the world, there were approximately 700,000 Arabs living in what was called Palestine. That, according to the Encyclopedia Britannica. Now, the word Palestine derives from Philistia, name given by Greek writers to the land of the Philistines, who in the 12th century BC occupied a small pocket of land on the southern coast between modern Tel Aviv and Gaza. The name was revived by the Romans in the 2nd century A.D. in the term Syria Palestina, designating the southern portion of the province of Syria. The Ottoman Turks began collecting territories in and around the eastern Mediterranean around 1300 AD, eventually accumulating the entire region from Greece to Iraq to Egypt to Algeria. And the name Palestine stuck. But then came the Ottoman Empire. 400 years or more of their domination of that region, ending with World War I. With that end, Palestine became one of the regions mandated to Great Britain. The mandate included the territory east of the Jordan River, including what is now the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan, which Britain immediately placed under the administration separate from that of Palestine. And that was because of their effort in the war on the part of the British. Think Lawrence of Arabia. What happened after World War II, however, was quite different. With the UN ready to grant Israel her ancient homeland, the Arab community made a plan. It required every Arab to leave their home in that region. The idea was that the Arab world would immediately rise up and destroy these Jews as soon as they arrived and before they could get organized. The result was 4 Arab nations attacking Israel almost immediately. After 10 months of conflict, Israel not only controlled the area given them by the UN, but almost 60% of the Arab state proposed by the 1948 partition plan. They would go on fighting another 9 major wars with her neighbors, not one of which was started by Israel, not one of which was won by the aggressors. So what about all those Arabs who were encouraged to leave Palestine ahead of the Jews, being promised a glorious return after the inevitable Arab victory? Well, their brother Arabs placed them in what we used to call concentration camps. Now, they weren't set out to be that, but they ended up that. And they tell us they are largely still there, 70 years later. And of course, the people living there are second, third generation refugees. The whole idea of a third generation refugee is ridiculous. In 70 years, you'd think these people would be thoroughly integrated into the society in which they came. But no. Their Arab brothers, largely Jordanians, and not run-of-the-mill Arabs at any rate, have kept these people on display to the world, but has kept them as victims and as refugees, and not allowing them to integrate into their society. These are people who continue to suffer the effects of being told to leave their homes and come over here while we rid Palestine of the Jews. Then you can go home. The Arab world put its brothers and sisters in refugee camps. Israel, on the other hand, integrated her displaced brothers and sisters in this new Israel. Israel welcomed any and all Jews who wanted to come to Israel. Israel helped them find housing and jobs. These refugees are no longer refugees, but they are productive citizens. And Israel has welcomed Arabs into their society as full members, voting citizens, serving in their parliament. The Palestinians, on the other hand, continue to treat their brothers and sisters as political pawns in a persistent war against the Jewish state. Upwards of nearly 5 million Arabs who now seek to claim the mantle Palestinian refugee have never actually been in Israel. They are just descendants, some of them quite distant, of those who were actually displaced in 1948. Enter Iran. Have you ever played chess? If you have played chess, you have played a game that was created by the Persians. The point of chess is looking ahead to the third or to the fourth move, watching your opponent's moves and calculating where that will put him 3 moves later, and then being ready for him there. And there is even 3D chess, with 3 chessboards, one on top of the other. Did you know Iranians are the ones who invented the game of chess? They were Persians then, but it's the same people group. A people group descendant of world conquerors. And nothing has changed. In the game that is global dominance, especially of the Middle East, the Iranians in 2013 took a step back and allowed the superpowers to destroy Iraq's main enemies in the region. The Taliban was weakened and Saddam Hussein was eliminated, and along with Russia, they annihilated the Islamic State group. The Iranians also helped the Shiite militias exhaust and chase American forces from Iraq. The resulting vacuum in Iraq and Syria was filled by the Iranians and their proxies. Today, Iran is penetrating deeper across the Middle East and is guiding the Shiite majorities in eastern Saudi Arabia and Bahrain. It has also established a foothold among the Houthi rebels in Yemen. Just several days ago, Bahraini forces thwarted a coup attempt orchestrated by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. At the same time, the Iranians have forged unprecedentedly strong alliances with Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad. Together with their complete control over Lebanon, the Iranians have laid siege to virtually the entire Middle East. This upper chessboard is the international sphere where the Iranians have secured a nuclear deal. This achievement grants them all the advantages of military nuclear capability without any of the costs. In about 10 years, when the nuclear deal expires, no country will step in to stop Iran if it continues developing nuclear weapons for fear of squandering its vast investments in the Islamic Republic. President Trump plans to exit this deal. It's one reason why Rex Tillerson was fired. Tillerson was not on board with this idea. During Tehran's rapprochement with Washington under the Obama administration, it struck a tangible military alliance with Russia, which helped it restore its status as a player in the Middle East. This dexterity is particularly discernible on the main chessboard, which is Syria. Influence in Syria, which links Tehran to Beirut and Damascus to Iraq and the Persian Gulf, is a preeminent Iranian interest. The problem here is that in Syria, of all places, Iran's status is questionable due to the lack of Shiite populations there. So, Iran is working to cleanse Syria of its Sunni majority and bolster the Alawites, who are essentially an offshoot of Shiite Islam in their regime. For this effort, Iran enlisted Russia. In return, Iran agreed to Russia's continued presence in Syria. Now Iran is importing Shiites from across the Middle East to bolster Shiite numbers, lost in the fighting so far. The EU is maintaining economic ties with Iran. This is helping to fund the ethnic cleansing of Syria by the large amount of Shiite refugees pouring into Syria. All that's left is for Iran to establish a military foothold in Syria, and the game is set. Endgame? A regional hegemony with Persia back in charge. In chess terms, a checkmate on Israel's king. With the inevitable checkmate, the taking of Israel's king, game is over. To counter this effort, Israel seeks to keep Iran from entrenching herself in Syria, keep Iran from building missile bases and ports in Syria, keep sophisticated weaponry from Hezbollah. And in all of this, the UN will not help. The UN is on the side of any anti-capitalistic, anti-God nation. So Israel must develop a diplomatic and legal iron dome to protect Israeli soldiers who are forced to enter Hezbollah's strongholds in southern Lebanon. And it appears they will be forced into Lebanon at some point. There is a game afoot. It is a chess game. And most nations of the world are not up to the challenge. Keep your eye on the eastern sky.